they can watch it later. Well, good afternoon. If you happen to be in England or Wales or Scotland, or probably it might even be still afternoon in Romania for a couple of hours. Well, for about an hour or something. And wherever you are, and whoever you are, and I'm going round the world. And I think I'm going to start right up north. So we'll go. I think we'll go to. I'm going to Manchester Airport, up near David, and drive up there. Put my car in purple parking. Get on a plane and fly to Tromsø in Norway, and then I'm going to take that Northern Lights route to Karesuando on the Finnish-Swedish border. Sort of that place where everything meets up the top in the middle of the snow. Well, right now there'd be midnight sun. And I'm going to tell a story from the Sami of the Lapps. And they wear hats like this. And actually, the further north you go, the taller the hats and the more colourful they look. But they're called a Four Winds hat. And I'll tell you why they're called a Four Winds hat. And it's from way back in time, when mountains were taller and rivers were deeper and forests were thicker. And there was an old Lapp, an old Sami man. He was a reindeer man. He was sitting on top of the mountain, and he just had a little round hat on, like this. And you know those days when it gets really windy, even more windy than it does on the Yorkshire moors. Right. And the wind, and the winds were arguing. The north wind was saying, "I'm the strongest," and the south wind was saying, "I'm the strongest," and the east wind was saying, "And I am the strongest." And the west wind was saying, "You have got to be joking. I am the strongest." And they're battering, and there's reindeers flying around the hillside. And the old Lapp man, the old reindeer man at the top, is getting really fed up with this. So he took off his hat and he said, "Fly in there." And he got the north wind, the south wind, the east wind, and the west wind to fly inside his hat. And then he held it really tight. And he said, "The first one to get out the hat is the strongest." And the winds huffed. You're going to huff with me. And he puffed. They puffed. North wind puffed. They couldn't get out. And gradually, and all at the same time, the hat got bigger. And the north wind made one point, and the west wind made another point, and the east wind made another point, and the south wind made another point. And the old reindeer man looked in through the top and shouted, "Have you had enough?" And I went, "Yes." He said, "And it's startlingly obvious you're all as strong as each other. Can you please stop arguing and leave my reindeer in peace and only come across one at a time?" And I went, "Yes." He said, "Okay, I'll let you out." And he let out those winds. And he put his hat back on his head. But of course, it had those 4 points on. And that is why These hats are called Four Winds hats. Now, I could stay here and I could tell you about the Northern Lights. I could tell you about Miko the fox and Otso the bear, but I won't. I think I'm going to go. Ooh, I think I'm going to drive down to Reykjavik. And I think I'm going to get a plane in Reykjavik, and I think I'm going to fly across to Bianca. What's the weather like in Romania?
We are melting.
You are melting. Well, imagine it was middle of the winter in Romania, and I'd just flown into Cluj Airport in Transylvania, the capital of Transylvania. And because it's very cold, I'm going to put on my Romanian hat. And I think I'm going to drive across my house in Kolibica. Up the mountain. Open my front door. Go in, close it. Look out. It's a beautiful lake. And there's mountains. And there's forest. And I've invited everyone round to tell me stories. And maybe this is the story I heard. It's about two neighbors, Mihai and Andrei. Now, Andrei was very rich. He had a big farm. Mihai was very poor. He was so poor, and there was no other work around, that he had to go and work for Andrei. And Andrei hardly paid him. He wasn't what you'd call a generous man. Poor Mihai worked all day, and he had a little packed lunch, not much. In fact, there was just a little bit of that cabbage in salt and a little bit of salted cabbage, and he didn't even have any bread to eat it with. And he would, when the sun was going down, it wasn't very late, he went back and he knocked on Andrei's door. He said, I've finished work for the day. I don't suppose he could smell sausage cooking. You could smell a lot of other food, but just that sausage, occasionally the smell of cooking sausage goes. He said, I could do with some of that. And he said, Andrei, I'm very hungry. He said, well, didn't you have any lunch? I gave you a bit of salted cabbage. He said, yes, but that was hours and hours ago, and I'm very hungry. Could I have one of those sausages? There was a huge string of sausages hanging down. Could I just have one to take home and cook for my supper this evening? And Andrei said, well, I suppose you worked a bit today. Yes, I'll give you a sausage. And Mihai was just about to turn up. He said, I might be pushing my luck, but could you spare another one so I can have something for my breakfast? Well, Andrei just didn't even answer. He just really bad temper, cut off another sausage from the string of sausages, threw it at Mihai and said, you can take this to the devil. Well, poor me. He went home. He cooked that one sausage. Oh, it tasted so good. So good. And he looked at the second sausages and said, I'll keep this for breakfast. And he got up the next day in time for work. But then he looked at the sausage and he thought, well, I would eat it, but I'm supposed to take it to the devil. So off he set to see the devil. Boom, 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 boom. And he knocked on the gates, and there was the devil's grandmother. And she said, not many people come here, voluntarily. We usually have to go and get them. What do you want? He said, well, I've got this sausage, and I'm supposed to give it to your grandson. Well, he's out doing devil stuff. But, well, can I give it to you? Well, come in, she said, come in. And they sat down, and she said, well, I don't like sausages myself, but if you want to cook it on the fire, yeah, eat it yourself. Well, yeah, they talked the way that young men talk to old ladies. And he listened to her stories. And then they heard a commotion. It was all the little devils coming back and the big fellow with them. He said, go and hide in the bedroom. Go to sleep. You won't get out before you see. Well, off he went and he hid. He soon fast asleep. The devil came in. "Oi, smell a man," said the devil. "Oh, what? That's just someone came earlier," said Grandma. Just cooked a sausage and then went his way. "Oh, you might have kept him for me," said the devil. No, I don't think he was ready. Well, the next morning after the devil had gone to work, the devil's grandmother gets me high and said, "It's okay, it's gone, it's safe to go. But before you go, I'm going to give you something. Go to that hair mattress, that horsehair mattress. Take out one of the hairs and put it on your shoulder. Whatever you do, don't look at it till you get back." Well, Mihai started walking back. Boom, 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 boom. And it got slower. And that hair was getting heavier and heavier and heavier. When he got home, he dropped. It was a flagpole of solid gold. He couldn't believe his eyes. He went and he sold that flagpole and he got so much money. He got that old broken down cottage of his. He was able to build a brand new house. He didn't have to go to work for his neighbor Andre anymore. He just, in fact, he could buy his own herd of cows and his own flock of sheep. And after a few weeks, Andre began to wonder where his worker was. And he came knocking on the door. He said, "I was worried about you. What happened?" Well, Mihai told him the whole story. Well, you know exactly what Andre did. He went back and took a whole string of sausages. And he went and he walked 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 till he came to the devil's place. And there was the devil's grandmother. She said, I see you brought me sausages. Is that all you want? Is that what you want? Is that what it's about? I've got to give these to the devil himself. No, give me the sausages, she said. Providing you give me something to take back, like you gave me. Well, she took the sausages. witch told him to go and get a hare. He put that hare on his shoulder. I mean, they didn't spend too much time together because, just like he said, he didn't like her much, and it was pretty obvious that she didn't like him. So why spend any time together? And he walked back. He said, whatever you do, don't look at it till you get back. And he walked 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 and he walked. He got slower and slower as the hair on his shoulder got heavier and heavier and heavier. And he tossed it off when he got home. And it was a huge pair of bellows. You know what a bellows is? Bellows are things you pray, you squeeze in and out and in and out, and they make a huge lot of wind. And you use them for keeping fires alight and such. But this was the biggest pair of bellows you've ever seen. They started blowing themselves, and they were blowing and blowing and blowing, and they blew Andre's house out, and it all came down. It was all broken, and it blew his cattle into the next field and his sheep. And then Andre himself, up into the air, up into the air, up into the air. He went, boom, came down, it was all bruised and he was broken. Well, Mihai saw this, and he took poor Andre in, and he bathed his wounds, and he made him so much better. And he gave some money so he would build a nice little house for himself. And he went and collected up all his cows, all his sheep. But do you think Andre was grateful? There are some people that are never, ever satisfied. And for the rest of his life, Andre blamed Mihai for all his bad luck. Right. I'm just going to have a drink of water. And then I think I'm going to go back down the mountain. And I'm going to Cluj. And I might fly across to Vancouver Airport in Canada. I'm going to fly. And then I might get a ferry across to Vancouver Island. And I might go to the west coast of Vancouver Island. And I might take off my Romanian hat here. But I did see some lumberjacks wearing something very similar. And I'll take, you see that? That's a picture of a thunderbird on the front. And I'm going to tell a First Nation story. And the First Nation people, they live in kayaks, like canoes. Not live in them, they paddle around the water in kayaks. And they collect mussels. I mean, not mussels, but like shellfish mussels. And this is from the very beginning of time, you know. In fact, I think we're going to shout, like we're going to do a little shouty thing for the beginning of the story. I'm going to shout crick, and you're all going to shout back crack. Are you ready? Can we do this? Crick, crack, crick,
Crack.
crick,
Crack.
crick.
Greg.
Story break me back. Now, way back in time, when all the animals could talk to each other and chickens still had teeth, Wolf controlled the tide. And Wolf, just for devilment, really, just because he was feeling like it. You know, there's people who do bad things just because they feel like it. Why do you do that? Because I felt like it. We've all met them, haven't we? And he thought, I'm just going to stop the tide going out. I think the tide is going to be in all the time. Well, that meant if the tide didn't go out, nobody could get any clams or mussels or any of the food that they normally had. The animals and the people all got hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And Deer just called a council of everyone. He said, I think we've got to deal with this problem. I think I've got the answer. Get me the sharpest mussel knife in the village. You know, those little knives that are used to open the shellfish with. And then put me in a coffin, leave it slightly open, and then all start wailing. Deer is dead! Deer is dead! Deer is dead! Well, he didn't tell anyone why, but Deer was quite wise. And they thought, well, no one's got a better idea. So they put him they put him in the coffin. They just left it open just a crack. And then they made sure that little that mussel knife, really sharp knife, was in with him. And they went round wailing, Deer is dead! Deer is dead! Oh, dearie, dearie, dearie me, Deer is dead! And Wolf heard. Now, Wolf himself was getting a bit hungry by now. And he thought, I know. I'll come. If Deer's dead, he'll make a good meal. And now in those days, like now, wolves had those beautiful tails. And they used those tails to just sort of, like an extra limb. Could pick things up with their tail. And he got to the coffin and he saw that crack and he just put his tail through. When the tail was all the way inside, it felt round and he could feel Deer. Yeah, there's Deer. I can smell Deer and I can feel Deer. And at that point, ow! Deer cut off Wolf's tail. I felt Deer then, he said, and he went running off and howling back to his brothers and the whole pack of wolves. They cut off my tail. And he sent his brother back to the village to get his tail. Well, Deer's back in the village. He's holding the tail. They built a big fire. And Wolf's brother came in and said, Wolf, my brother wants his tail back. Give it to me now. And he gave that big wolf growl. Can we have a big wolf growl? Oh! And Deer just held that tail above the fire and just put it just closer to the fire till it was just singeing a little bit. Said, you go and tell your brother, unless he makes the tide go in and out again every day, he won't get his tail back. Well, the brother went back and he told Wolf. And Wolf said, oh, very well, I'll put it out once. People better to get enough mussels and clams then, just to keep themselves fed, because I'm not going to do it again. Well, the brother came back and he told Deer what his brother had said. This time, the tail was put a little nearer the fire. You know that smell of burning hair? You know, I remember because my hair's fairly long, and if I put it too near the cooker occasionally, it does. I have to be very careful. They said, no, we want it to go in and out every day. He went back, and Wolf got the message. And he said, okay, I really need my tail back. From now on, the tide will go in and out twice every day. And Deer said, it had better, or you know what will happen. He gave Wolf the tail back. If you look at wolves now, they've still got those beautiful tails. And ever since then, the tide has gone in and out, in and out, every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year, and every year of the millennium, and probably the next millennium too, because if it doesn't, Wolf knows what will happen. Oh, I think I'm going to get a train now. Well, I need to get the ferry back to the mainland, obviously. Then I'm going to get a train. It's going to take me some days. I'm going to get one of those nice sleeper trains where crucial, and so I can go to sleep a bit. And I'm going way down south to the Texas-Louisiana border. I was sitting there. I've been out. Actually, I'm going to take a bit. It's a bit hot down here. I think I need to go out in the river. I'm going to go out on one of those airboats. You know, like I'm going down the Sabine on the Texas-Louisiana border in a town called Orange, where a storyteller called Trudy Terry. Going out in the airboat. We're going to a we're going to a. Oh, hold on! I've got some marshmallows in my hand. I think I'm going to throw them on the water, because if you put marshmallows on the water, the alligators come up and eat the marshmallows. And you can see, don't put your hands in, they'll think it's fresh chicken and they'll eat your hand. Now just drop the marshmallows into the water. And the alligators will come up. And if you look at the alligators, why? They've got really crunchy skin, hard skin, and it looks like an old tree trunk. Well, it wasn't always like that. And I'll tell you how he got that skin. Because they used to have skins, alligators used to have skins as smooth as silk. They were milky white. And they thought they were a little bit above everybody else, all the other animals. And well, around there, near the swamp, on the dry land, lived a rabbit. And they grew rice, things, wheat, and corn. You know, that lovely sweet corn. Who likes corn on the cob? I like corn on the cob. Do you like, David? You don't like corn. David doesn't, but Bianca likes corn on the cob. Oh, right. Well, I love corn on the cob with some butter on, some but there was fields. They didn't have any butter on. It was just the corn. But it was all ripe and ready, and it had gone. You know, everything was dry. and Alligator swimming. And Rabbit was on the shore, puffing away at his pipe. Morning, Gator. Did someone speak? Someone speak? Was that a land animal spoke to me? He thought it was very superior living in water. Rabbit said, "Yeah, it was me, Rabbit." Well, I don't know how you can live on the land. I mean, it's just really must be really difficult for you. I mean, I don't know how you can live like that. And Rabbit turned around and said, "Well, I must admit we have been seeing a lot of trouble lately." Now, Gator had never heard the word trouble before. And when he said, "I think we've been seeing a lot of trouble," Gator thought that was a person. But he said, "Well, who is this Trouble? I've never met Trouble. Do you think you could introduce me?" Rabbit said, "Okay, if you come along this time tomorrow morning, I'll introduce you to Trouble." Well, Gator went back, and the next morning he was getting up, he's just polishing those gator nails and shining those gator teeth. There's a lot of them. You know, it's not a 2-minute job if you're an alligator cleaning your teeth. And his wife saw him and said, "Oh, Mr. Gator, where do you think you're going by yourself, dressed up like that?" And Gator said, "Well, Rabbit's going to introduce me to Trouble. I've never met Trouble." "Well, neither have I," had Mrs. Gator. "And if you're going to be introduced to Trouble, I want to be introduced to Trouble too." And she puts on the best gator dress. Now, the children saw them. And anyone with children will know that if children see you're getting ready to go somewhere, they want to come themselves. Isn't that true? Yeah. So I said, "Mummy, Daddy, where are you going?" "Well, it's not really any of your business." They said, "Well, no, tell us, please, tell us. All right, Rabbit is going to introduce us to Trouble. We want to come, we want to come to, all right. Polish your teeth, be on your best behavior, you know, because you always ask children to be on their best. You tell children to be on their best behavior. Sometimes they remember, sometimes they don't. But they were, and they swam down this little family of alligators down the river, down the Sabine. "Rabbit, you there?" "I'm here," said Rabbit. Well, Rabbit was a bit surprised because he'd only invited Gator. He hadn't invited his whole family, but he didn't mind that. He said, "You're going to introduce us to Trouble?" So Rabbit said, "Yeah, you're going to have to get out the river." "Well, I suppose it's worth it to meet a new and very important person." So they get out the river. They go through the rice field into the middle of that dry corn. They get there. They said, "Where's Trouble?" Rabbit said, "Be along in a minute." Then he puts his hand to his ear. "Is that someone I hear calling Rabbit?" "Yeah, it is. And he turned to the gate and he said, "Look, you wait here. I'll be back. But, you know, Trouble will be along any moment. So be really polite." Oh, we will. We will. We know how to behave. We are, after all, alligators. We're not the riffraff you find on land. Well, Rabbit went out and he walked through that cornfield. He was laughing his head off. How stupid could they be? And he thought, I'll just leave them there a while. He got the old corncob pipe and he tapped out that hot ash just on the edge of that field. This is why you must never play with fire. And if there's ever a campfire outside, you must always make sure it's gone out completely before you go to bed. Because just one little spark from Rabbit's pipe caught one little piece of straw from the cornfield. And that set that whole cornfield alight. Meanwhile, in the middle of the cornfield, Mrs. Gator's going, oh, well, how well do you know Rabbit? Is he to be trusted? Well, yes, he's a fine fellow. Just wait here, like he said. I'm not so sure, said Mrs. Gator, and just then she looked up and she saw the fire in the distance. Now, they lived in the river. They'd never seen fire before. That must be trouble, she said. Isn't trouble handsome? The fire's getting nearer and nearer. And Mr. and Mrs. Gator getting more and more excited. What a handsome fellow we're going to be introduced to. Just then, a spark hit one of those little gators. Ow! Trouble hurts. Don't be rude. But then a spark hit Mrs. Gator. Yes, I'm not sure Trouble is the sort of person we should be mixing with. And let's run back to the river. And they ran and they ran and they ran. They're running out of the cornfield, and Trouble's catching up with them. The fire's just about on them, and they're running into the rice field, and jump into the river. But by this time, the fire has overcome them. And you know when you get a hot pan and you put it in the water, just take it off the oven and you put it in the cold water and you hear that steam rise. Well, it was a bit like that when they jumped in that river. That river virtually boiled when they jumped in. When they came out and when they looked in their reflection, instead of that silky, milky white skin, they had that hard look now, like the bark of an old tree trunk. And it's all Rabbit's fault. Or maybe the gators just got a little above themselves. You make up your own mind. Well, maybe we've got time just to go to one more country. I think I'm going to India. It's hot there as well. I haven't got a hat for India. So, but this is a story. This is one of my favorite stories. So that's lots of fun. You can join in with me if you like. You can shout things out. There's only a couple of words you have to remember. You have to remember hole is one word, hole, and away, go away. Very simple words. Crick, you're very slow, aren't you? Should have gone crack then, shouldn't you? Crick, crack, crick.
Crack.
Crick.
Crack.
Monkey broke his back on a rotten pomerac. Now, way back in time, when my hair was dark and my beard was ginger and all my teeth were my own, there was a merchant leading an ox down the road, and on the back of the ox was a huge sack of peas, and the ox was rocking backwards and forwards, one side to the other. It was a rough road, and it wasn't a four-wheel drive ox. And the sack of peas fell off. And the merchant tried to pick up the sack of peas, but they were just too heavy. So he's looking around for some help, and he sees a mouse coming down the road. He said, "Excuse me, mouse, can you help me on the back of this ox with this sack of peas?" And the mouse said, yeah, I'll do that. And thought there was nothing strange about a talking merchant. So between them, they got that sack of peas and they put it on the back of the ox. And the merchant was so pleased to get the mouse one pea. One had fallen out on the road, so the mouse had two peas. And the mouse didn't trust the merchant in the first place. They'd already taken one, so he had three peas. And he went and planted them in front of his hole and said, "Look, unless there's 3 fine green shoots by the morning, I'll cut you up and I'll feed you." He was sure the next morning when he woke up, there were 3 fine green shoots. He said, "Look, unless there's 3 fine flowers by the morning, I'll cut you up and feed you to the ox." And you can be sure the next morning when he woke up, there were 3 fine flowers. He said, "Unless there's 3 fine fat pods with fat peas inside by the morning, I'll cut you up and I'll feed you to the ox." You can be sure the next morning when he woke up, there was 3 fine fat pods with fat peas inside, and he ate and he ate and he ate and he ate, and he got fatter and fatter and fatter. Now, if you're a mouse and you're a bit of flab on you, everyone thinks you're really good looking. Sometimes I just wished I was a mouse. And he's walking down the road and he's whacking his flab from one side to the other. Ba-doing, 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 ba-doing. When down the road came another mouse. "Whoa! How did you get so big?" "Well, come home and I'll show you." And they ate and they ate, and she ran down the hole, he ran down behind her. He got stuck halfway down. He went to carpenter. You know what a carpenter is? It's someone who works with wood, who makes like furniture and stuff. Said, "Carpenter, carpenter, cut me down to size so I can get down my hole." And the carpenter said, "I've got to make all this furniture for everything that's going to happen next year. Everything's falling apart because it's not been used properly this year. I haven't got time to deal with a mouse. Go away." So he went to the king. He said, "King, king, tell carpenter to cut me down the size so I can get down my hole." The king said, "Look, I've got a whole country to look after here. I haven't got time to deal with a mouse. Go away." So he went to the queen. He said, "Queen, queen, leave king, king, won't tell carpenter to cut me down the size so I can get down my hole." The queen said, "I'm not going to leave the king for a mouse. Do you mind? Go away." So he went to the snake. He went, "Snake, snake, bite, queen, queen, won't leave king, king, won't tell carpenter to cut me down the size so I can get down my hole." And the snake said, "Look, it's the first hot day for months. I just want to lay here basking in the sun." That's what Bianca wants to do. She just wants to go out and just relax in the sun. And go away. So he went to the stick. He went, "Stick, stick, beat snake." Just find my stick. Yes, find my stick. Said, "Stick, stick, beat snake, snake won't bite, queen, queen won't leave, king, king won't tell carpenter to cut me down the size so I can get down my hole." And the stick said, "Look, I've just spent all day beating a thief. I haven't got any energy left. Do you mind? Go away." So he went to the furnace. You know what a furnace is? Like a really hot fire. You know, it's what we had when we had industry. It says, "Furnace, furnace, burn, stick, stick won't beat snake, snake won't bite, queen, queen won't leave, king, king won't tell carpenter to cut me down the size so I can get down my hole." And the furnace said, "Look, I'm cooking the king's dinner hard wine. Go away. So he went to the ocean. He went ocean, put out furnace, won't burn, stick, won't be, snake, won't bite, queen, won't lead, king won't tell carpenter to cut me down the side so I can get down my hole. And the ocean said, look, the tide's high, the fish are jumping, the sun's in the sky, go away. So he went to the elephant. He went elephant, drink, ocean, won't put out furnace, won't burn, stick, won't be, snake, won't bite, queen, won't lead, king won't tell carpenter to cut me down the side so I can get down my hole. And the elephant burped really loud. And I don't want you all to burp right now. That's very rude. Well, in some places it's not. It shows an appreciation for your food. But for right now, we won't have any burping. I've just drunk a lake, said the elephant. I haven't got room for an ocean. Go away. So he went to the vine. That's what used to grow around this stick to make it this funny shape. He said, vine, strangle elephant won't drink, ocean won't put out furnace, won't burn, stick, won't be, snake, won't bite, queen won't lead, king won't tell carpenter to cut me down to size so I can get down my hole. And the vine said, look, I'm stuck to this tree. I couldn't help you even if I wanted to. Go away. So he went to a scythe. Now the scythe is like a long curved blade on a long stick, which well, when I was little, I used to see men mowing the grass verges with these big scythes, and sometimes on my hillside near my house, I see people cutting the hay, and they put them in these beautiful little sort of triangular sort of pyramids, and then the cows eat them also. And there's anyway, it says scythe, cut down vine, won't strangle elephant won't drink, ocean won't put out furnace, won't burn, stick, won't be, snake, won't bite, queen won't lead, king won't tell carpenter to cut me down to size so I can get down my hole. And the size, well, fortunately, because I'm nearly out of time here. In fact, I'm 3 minutes over, and Bianca will sank me in a minute, so I better come to the end of this story. Just but fortunately the size is always sharp. So, and it's so I said okay, and said size began to cut down vine began to strangle the elephant began to drink the ocean began to pull out the furnace began to burn the stick began to beat the snake began to bite the queen began to leave the king told the carpenter to cut the mouse down to size, and the mouse got down its hole. Now, before we go, we better go down to Calcutta Airport, fly back. I can't leave you all in Calcutta. I better get you back to the fence. So we'll fly into. I think we'll fly into Stansted, and then we'll just go up the A11, up the M11, A11, and across to Peterborough, across to the A1 and to Peterborough and to Cambridge, and wherever you are in this world. Even we might even go all the way up the A1 and across the M62 to those bits of Yorkshire, you know, that are stuck out in the middle of nowhere. And I apologise to Morocco. We missed Morocco. We flew over Morocco. We waved to you on the way over. But right now, that's who I was waving to. Wave, children, wave to. That's it. There we go. Out the plane window. But we're back home, and I've got to say, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you some other time at the World Storytelling Cafe.
Great stories.
Thank you. Thank you, Suha. Right.
Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye, everyone.
See you later.
Bye.
See you in a few hours. Bye.